Hello, Grissom Choir. This is Level 1.1 Music Theory Review. In this first review, we are identifying the lines and spaces of the treble clef. Another name for the treble clef is the G clef, and we'll talk about why that is here in just a little minute. For the treble clef, we have 5 lines and 4 spaces. Starting from the bottom of the 5 lines and the 4 spaces, the lines would be E, G, B, D, and F. The spaces would be F, A, C, and E. An easy acronym that you can use for the lines of the treble clef is every good boy does fine, and the spaces face. Easiest way to remember both of those together is that the treble clef lines and spaces are about people. Every good boy does fine, and people have faces. As I said earlier, you always have to start from the bottom of the treble clef, because the bottom line of the treble clef is E, not the top line. The top line is F. Let's take a look at these examples. This first example right here, that note is on the middle line. The middle line, every good boy. It must be a B. Bottom line is E, G, B. Every good boy. Next example on this line. We know the bottom line is E. The second line is G. That has to be a G. The next one, it's on that bottom line, which is every E. The fourth line, every good boy does. It has to be a D. Going on to our spaces. The spaces are F-A-C-E. F-A-C. That note is C. F-A. That note is A. The top line, every good boy does fine. That has to be an F. And then also the bottom space, F as well. So again, the lines of the treble clef, every good boy does fine, E, G, B, D, F, and face for the spaces, F-A-C-E. Always starting from the bottom. Let's go back to what we were talking about at the very beginning with the treble clef also being called the G clef. This right here is our clef that tells us the lines and spaces that we are dealing with. It is called the G clef because as we go up and around, it circles around the second line, and we have just determined that the second line is G, so its nickname is the G clef. Those are our lines and spaces of the G clef of the treble clef. Let's go on to identifying the notes and rests upon which we are singing. This first example right here, the note that looks like a circle is our whole note. And the symbol that looks like a hole in the ground, a flat line with a filled-in box, that is our whole rest. So this side on the left are our whole notes that we are singing, and the rests are the silent portions. The whole note and the whole rest, they each get 4 counts. The half note looks like a smaller whole note with a stem on the right-hand side. The half rest looks like a hat. It looks like an upside-down whole rest. The half note and the half rest get 2 counts. They are half the counts of 4. 4 divided by 2, cut it in half, equals 2. Our quarter note looks like the half note, but it is filled in. The quarter rest looks like a zigzaggy line. The quarter note and the quarter rest each get one count. They get one count because it is a quarter of 4. 1/4 of 4 counts is one count. The eighth note and the eighth rest. The eighth note looks like a quarter note with a little flag on the right-hand side. And the eighth rest looks like a 7 with a little dot on the left-hand side of it. The eighth note and the eighth rest both get half of a count. Be very careful. They do not get 1/8 of a count. The eighth note and the eighth rest are an eighth of 4, which is where we get the name from. But the eighth note and the eighth rest both get half of a count. The 16th note looks like a eighth note with 2 flags on the right-hand side, and the 16th rest looks like a eighth rest with 2 7s. Careful, the 16th note and 16th rest do not get a 16th of a count. They get 1/4 of a count. They are a 16th of 4 of the whole note. But count-wise, the 16th note and the 16th rest each get 1/4 of a count. Those are our basic notes and rests, identifying them and their affiliated values. Let's go on to some definitions. A measure is the space between 2 bar lines. So if we scroll up to these examples, this right here would be a measure. Likewise, a bar line is what separates each of the measures. A clef is the symbol at the beginning of a staff that tells us what the lines and spaces are. The clef that we learned about today was the treble clef, otherwise known as the G clef. The staff is the system of 5 lines and 4 spaces upon which music is written. Dynamics is the musical term for our volume, how loudly or how softly we are singing. Tempo is our musical term for speed, how quickly or how slowly we are singing. Articulation is how you attack and release a note. Later on, we'll discover different kinds of articulations that we can have as singers. But right now, we just got to know that articulation is how we attack and release a note. And unison, sometimes you may see it as UNIS, period. That is everyone singing on the same part, rhythmically and on pitches. The last thing that we have in 1.1 is our time signature. So the time signature is the numbers that are at the beginning of our piece of music that kind of gives us a cheat sheet as to how the music is to be played, how the music is to be sung. So the time signature will consist of 2 numbers, one on top of the other. The top number tells us how many beats, how many counts are in a measure. The bottom number will tell us what note gets the beat. Now right here it also says or the value of the whole note. I like to just focus on the note that receives 1 beat. For this example that's given here, we have 3/4 time signature. 3/4 time signature will tell us that there are 3 beats in the measure based off the top number. And the 4 will always tell us that the quarter note gets 1 beat. There's several other basic time signatures that you may have. There's 4/4 time signature. There is 2/4 time signature. There is 5/4 time signature. And then another common one that you may see is 6/8 time signature. In 4/4 time signature, that is the most common time signature. We have 4 beats per measure. and the quarter note gets the beat. In 2/4 time signature, there are 2 beats per measure, and the quarter note gets the beat. In 5/4 time signature, there are 5 beats per measure, BPMs, and the quarter note gets the beat. In 6/8 time signature, there are 6 beats per minute, but the 8th note will now get the beat. Those are our 5 main time signatures. There are several others, which we will address at a later time. And that is everything that is on our first music theory review, level 1.1. Everything builds upon what we have learned in 1.1, so please make sure you are doing what you need to do in order to master all of the material, all of the musical concepts that are on 1.1.